my title today is called Where is the Joy? And this is the fourth week and the last week of Advent, and the Sunday before Christmas, which is represented by joy. And last week was love, and since the kids did such a fabulous job on that Christmas play, how many people were here? Yeah, and you could feel the love they exuded during that time, and we just really got the essence of that play. And the play was called The Greatest Gift, and we learned that Joseph and Mary felt safe and felt protected by the birth of their child because of the angels and all of the creatures that were there to give them that positive message that it was okay. And during that time, they gave birth to the Christ child that we named Jesus. And of course, we all got to experience the birth of that Christ within when we viewed the manger, not the manager like the song had, but the manger that was there on the stage. So today we delve into understanding and more about how and why this is a joyous time of the year, and why it's a time to celebrate this occurrence in our everyday life. But let's first affirm those statements of truth, shall we? I am a child of God. I am deserving of good in my life. I am accepting my good now. Well, even though we're focusing on joy, there's going to be some love peppered into this message today, because you can't really talk about one without the other. But I have a question for everybody, and Reverend Warren's going to come around with the mic, and we'll get your answers. What kind of things bring you joy? Anybody want to answer?
Family.
Family. There you go. Janelle's got her hand up. Thanks,
Uh-oh.
New babies. New babies. That's sweet.
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren.
My wife.
Oh.
The ability to help.
Ooh.
Other people's joy.
Well, that, your hand isn't up?
Oh, I was
Helping others.
What? What did you?
Helping others.
Very good. All right, those are great answers. And I could tell by the summation of all of these answers that, see, love was in the midst of all this, isn't it? Because to be able to say that those things bring you joy, you have to know that love is moving in and through you, bringing you that joy, right? And it just revolves around and around. But let's back up just a moment, because I want to just back up to October, where we first let go of things that do not serve our highest good. And we let go through forgiveness and through what? The C word? Everybody remember? Control. Very good, yes. And I know you all are doing excellent working through that, right? And then in November, we came to that place of giving thanks and being grateful for all the things in our lives. And that's kind of like joy, isn't it? Because, you start thinking about the things that bring you joy and sharing that love, and it automatically makes you feel grateful for that ability. And then we moved into December, which is this time of Advent, and the time of what they call the time of the coming, or the time of preparing for the Christ. And during this time, we have prepared ourselves to receive the gifts of Advent. And those gifts are, we've mentioned several times today, but faith, peace, love, and joy. And are you ready to express these in your life all the time?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Yes! Well, the gift of love is the catalyst for all of these gifts, you see. And when we truly know faith and embrace peace, we have found love, and all that wells up from that realization is joy. So there are different kinds of joy, Perhaps you might think about a few of them. We know there's different kinds of love, right? Some of this was mentioned even as you were talking about joy. You have love for your children, there's love for your spouse, or partner, there is love we have for God, isn't there? And each one of these is unique in itself in how we express that love to that particular person or the universe. And just like these expressions of love, we also express differently different kinds of expressions of joy, don't we? And of course, sometimes the feelings of love and joy kind of intermingle, and just like when everybody answered the question, we realized that and we saw that. So, for example, the love you have for your baby might be one of the strongest, and Janelle shared this one, the strongest love you can ever feel. That love can bring a smile to your face, and even if you've never had a baby, if you see a baby, most people are going to just smile the minute they see a baby, aren't they? They're going to feel that innocence and that joy. And there is no joy like that love of a baby. I mean, it's just that pure essence of the Spirit of God moving in and through. And of course, you get to experience all the first in those joys. You know, the first time they walk, the first time they smile, the first time they talk. And it's a beautiful thing, and those joys, you go around bragging about them, and you show everybody the photos, and you think it's great. And then all of a sudden, these little, sweet little things move into those teenage years. It becomes a little bit more difficult sometimes to find that joy, doesn't it? Justin, sorry, Linnea, you're in here.
She doesn't look like that.
No. But of course, from this point, then that moves us into our relationships with our spouse or partners or whatever. And you know, when we first started out those relationships, every time we just mentioned their name, we just well up with that joy and that love. And we just get that little twinkle, you know, and it was just like, oh yes, that person's so special in my life. And then something happens there too. And the joy doesn't show up so easily sometimes, and we get frustrated, and we might not even feel so joyous anymore. You know, it just depends.
My joy hasn't left.
Drop that mic. I have to tell you, I was at Kohl's the other day, and I was exchanging something, and the lady behind the counter was probably 60s, you know, something like that. And I saw this gentleman walk up right about the same time I walked up, and she looked at him, and she had that twinkle in her eye. And I looked at him, and he had that twinkle in his eye, and I said, oh, do you need to speak to him first? I said, I'll wait. And she goes, oh, no, that's my husband. And I said, oh, how long have you been married? And she said, 25 years. I said, keep that sparkle going, you know? So it is possible to keep it going. Right, honey?
She was
But why does it happen that sometimes we can't find the joy? You know, how does that happen? What keeps us from feeling the joy and or the love all the time? I'm talking about the minute we get in our car and drive out of here. Or the minute we walk into a store. Or the minute we go anywhere. What stops us from still feeling that love and joy that we know is totally accessible to us at all times? And what holds us back from opening it up and receiving joy and love in that initial intensity that we previously experienced? Is it fear? Is it just emotion? You know, that emotion we have to protect ourselves. Do we think we need to protect ourselves? And maybe it is all of these things or some of these things, but it can be easy to be open to all of it one moment and then to close ourselves off the next and not be receptive to any of that. It's like we're flipping the switch on and off and on and off. Yes, and who's flipping the switch? We are. That's right, we are. Yeah. And if it's fear, or we think we're protecting ourselves, it can be our emotions that control this power of receiving all the love and joy that is waiting there for us to experience in every single moment. We might need to take a moment to scream and holler. We might need to take a moment to go to the corner and cry and let those emotions out. Whatever it is that's causing us to block that feeling of love and joy all the time. Release it. Go back to October where we were letting go. And find that pure essence coming through you and tap onto that train. We have to realize that no one can hurt us or take anything from us. Excuse me for a minute. You see, when we know that no one can hurt us or take anything from us, it's empowering. Then we can walk around and feel like we can be who we are, that true expression of that Christ within. And when we do that, we turn on this full amount of power of love and joy. We connect to the source, that oneness of God, and it's coming in and through us, and it is powerful, and it's empowering for us. And that is one of the things we long for in our lives, believe it or not, is to be in that connection all the time. To be in that expression of joy and love just pouring through us all the time. And if that's something that we're desiring, then we have to figure out how to keep that going and to do it freely. The reason why we know this is because it's a truth. You know, that capital T truth. Love and joy is a truth. And when you look at a truth, a capital T truth, you know that it comes directly from God or the universe or whatever you want to call God. And in that moment, you know that it's a good thing, that it brings forth your highest good. Fillmore wrote, instead of giving up to circumstances and outer events, we should remember that we are all very close to a kingdom of mind that would make us always happy and successful if we would cultivate it and make it and its laws a vital part of our life. The joy of Jehovah is your strength. So what is joy? Well, Fillmore gives us this from the revealing word. Joy, the happiness of God expressed through God's perfect idea, man or woman. Joy and gladness are strength-giving, especially if the mind is fixed on the things of spirit. And he uses the quote similarly, the joy of the Lord is my strength. So we find strength in joy, not just the power of love, but we find strength. And these quotes are similar in that one is letting us know that we can rely and utilize the power to live in joy simply by following and know that truth that we know. The other affirms the interactive power of joy and strength. And we do this through the blessedness of God. The blessedness of God. What is that to you? What is the blessedness of God to you? Think about that for a moment. The joy that comes from God to those whose thoughts are stayed on God. Everlasting joy shall be unto them. Isaiah 61:7. That is powerful, people. The blessedness of God. The joy that comes from God to those whose thoughts are stayed on God. It's a formula for us. It's a formula for us to be able to express that joy and love and the peace and the faith that we need always through our lives when we stay our thoughts focused on the blessedness of God. You see, joy is that natural current that flows through our bodies. Joy is everlasting and always available through us as us. Joy is an essence of God that is for us to receive all the time in all ways. And through the strength of God, joy is always expressing. Isn't that cool? Always expressing. And how does it express? It expresses as, begins with a G. Good. Another name for God is good. Yeah, there we go. So you might be saying to yourself, well, how can I feel joy when I'm poor or I'm sick or I'm unhappy? Well, Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Jesus is instructing us to change that mental cloud. We go back to those thoughts that we're holding. It's that mental cloud that is lingering over us. To view, we need to change it to view that perfect love and light of God. That perfect love and light of Spirit that's moving in and through us. Now, we might be taking this a little bit literal, and that's okay, because if you look at something and develop it spiritually, it doesn't matter if you look at it literally in that moment. Because in every situation, no matter how or what is going on, we can always claim the presence and power of God in that moment. It doesn't matter what's going on. The minute you switch your thinking to saying that the presence and power of God is in that moment, it changes everything. And as long as you stay focused on that, you will receive the joy, see the joy, feel the joy, and along with that, love. We typically think of loved ones during this Christmas season, don't we? And some of us might think of loved ones who have made their transitions or are no longer with us. And sometimes that's kind of sad. And we might be longing for them to be in our activities or to be over at our houses or to just be there for that moment or whatever. Well, for me, I think about my parents. You see, my mom made her transition in 1989, and my dad made his transition in 2003. And they were both very young and had very short-lived lives. And I miss them during the holidays. And I also miss one of my sisters and one of my brothers who also made their transition. And they were my favorite brother and sister, I have to say. And that makes it even harder. And there's a song that comes around at Christmas time that says, "I miss you most at Christmas time." And whenever I hear that song, I have to cry. And I cry tears of joy in a way because I know that's the love that I feel for them. And even though I might be sad that I'm missing them, those tears kind of clear the air for me to feel the spirit of them in everything that I do. Because I always say to people when somebody has made their transition that they are never from you. Because the spirit of them is always in your memories and always in the love that you felt for them. And the minute you focus on that, even if you're crying tears, they still become joyful ones and ones filled with love. Well, joy is this wondrous thing that comes forth in so many different ways and in so many different avenues. And sometimes we just don't know how to describe it exactly. But from Dynamics for Living, Fillmore gives us this. We all should practice delightful, happy, joyous states of mind. It is such thoughts that open the way for the ever-present Father Mind to pour out its splendid resources into our mind and through us into all our affairs. So what does joy look like? And I already asked you guys what it looked like, but I have a neat little family story that I like to share. One of it was when I was a kid, I have 9 brothers and sisters, so there's 10 kids. So one of the things we did at Christmas time was we always put on plays for my parents. We did the typical Jesus and the baby, all that kind of stuff. But we also did How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And I had a pair of red and white footed striped pajamas, with the footies in them. And the Grinch always wore my pajamas for the play. But I love to do this play. So, I would be the one reading the story, and everybody else would act out the parts and stuff. And we had so much fun doing that. Well, when Jim Carrey came out with that show, The Grinch, I said, oh my gosh, I got to see it, because I just love Jim Carrey, don't you? Wait. There you go. There he is. I just love this version of it, too. And it's really a cool story because it's about this creature who can't stand the joy of Christmas. And, he really can't stand it being expressed from his neighboring people from Whoville. He thinks they're just crazy. So he tries to stop Christmas, and he goes and steals all their gifts and their trees and their food. And he bags it all up and takes it up to his hill. And he looks down and he's just waiting for them to wake up and see that everything's been stolen. And they wake up and they're still joyous and happy and having a good time. And he's really puzzled by this because he thought that's what Christmas was all about, because he was miserable. He was going to try to make them miserable. Anybody know anybody like that? Yeah? So he comes up with a statement. Maybe Christmas, he thought, means a little bit more. Well, the most amazing thing about this movie, I think, is the addition of the song from Faith Hill that's called Where Are You Christmas? And the beauty of this song is that it reminds us where joy shows up in our life. And these lyrics state, if there is love in your heart and your mind, you will feel like Christmas all the time. I feel you, Christmas. I know I found you. You never fade away. The joy of Christmas stays here inside us, fills each and every heart with love. Aren't those beautiful lyrics? And Linda's going to sing them here in a minute for us. But what happens in this story after this song is sung is that the Grinch's shrunken, shriveled up, miserable heart begins to grow. And it grows 3 times its size. And all of a sudden, the Grinch realizes he wants to return everything to Whoville. So he goes down the hill and he gives back the presents and he gives back the trees and he gives back the food. And all the people in Whoville welcome him. So his heart gets even larger because he realizes that the idea of joy and love cannot be taken away. And that's something we have to realize too. Nobody can take it away from us. And then they invite him to the Who's feast, and he has the honor of carving the roast beast, which is a very joy-filled honor in Whoville. You see, in all cases, no matter what, it is impossible to break the bond, the love we have through God. Knowing this truth, we believe and we can truly feel joy. December is a month filled with activity at family and friends. Christmas parties abound, and we get busy trying to make the holidays so perfect, don't we? We're back to that again. And we can take a cue from this story, though. We can see that the power of love and joy isn't about all the stuff and everything being perfect, is it? It is about the journey that we can have along this season of Christmas and whatever happens. And believe it or not, it's kind of similar to the story of the birth of Jesus, because you see, Mary rode a donkey and Joseph walked to Bethlehem, which took them a slow and long time. You know, Mary was pregnant. Remember Buddha last week? It was so cute. Anyway, but Jesus was born in a manger, and that wouldn't be called a perfect place for anybody to be born. No. But it still ended up being that perfect place for the light of the Christ child to be born. And it isn't about having everything on the outer perfect at all. It is about what's going on inside of us. And when we see that it is about this, we can slow down and enjoy and not worry about the perfectness of all the things about this season. We can enjoy the love and the joy, and all those things we mentioned in the beginning can come forth with even more love and joy. And we can turn within and realize that that love and joy is always there for us. Because you see, when you're expressing love and joy, there's no stress, is there? No, there's no stress in love and joy. Everything is already perfect through the eyes of God. And we see this through the Christ child that lies within each of us and desires to burst forth with joy. So as we open up and feel the joy that we've already been gifted, we can enjoy this Christmas season and realize the birth of the Christ within each of us. And when we do that, we also realize that it's happening all the time, not just during this time of the year. It happens constantly. With every breath, we can realign our thoughts with God's thoughts and stay in that perfect place of expressing. I want to say that Reverend Warren and I wish each of you a joy-filled and Merry Christmas. Thank you for being here today. Thank you.